How are we doing, Dave?
Looks good. Okay, yep, thank you.
How are we doing, Dave? Welcome. Thanks, everyone. Good evening. Good evening, council staff and members of the public and those that are joining us online. Welcome to your special council meeting for February 17th. I'm going to just start in about 2 minutes, just so that we start on the right time. And I'll ask everybody if they wouldn't mind keeping it on mute until you're called. That would be very much appreciated. And also, if you have your cell phone or telephone with you, if you could put that on silent. Thank you.
Hey, everyone.
Okay, welcome everybody to your virtual council chambers for our special meeting on February the 17th. We have one item on tonight's agenda, and that's a planning public meeting to be held in accordance with the Provincial Planning Act. And we have a quorum here now, so we'll open the meeting and thank everybody who's either watching online or who's joined us for this evening. And we will ask council if they would then please pass the recommendation that the contents of the special agenda be approved as printed. That would be moved by Councillor Payne and seconded by Councillor Orsatti. All those in favor? That is carried. I would ask if there's any disclosures of interest, any conflict or pecuniary interest on this item. Seeing none, we'll move forward then with the public meeting. So hello and welcome to this special council planning public meeting. Please be advised that the meeting is being live streamed and will be audio and video recorded and shall form part of the record, which will be retained in accordance to the town's retention bylaw. And for more information about that bylaw, you can contact our clerk's office. Also, please remember to mute your audio when you're not speaking. Tonight, we have one item on the agenda for information and public consultation purposes. No decisions will be made this evening. I will give you a quick overview of how the evening will unfold. First, we'll hear from town staff and a representative on behalf of the applicant regarding an application for a proposed plan of subdivision and amendments to the town's zoning bylaw. After they've spoken, council may have a few questions or provide comment. Then we'll have an opportunity for public consultation where members of the public who have pre-registered will be identified on the speakers list. And when it's your turn, I'll ask you to turn on your video and audio. We're asking that everyone take only 5 minutes on the first round. That way it's fair that everybody will have an opportunity. And then afterwards, if you have more that you would like to contribute or more questions that have come, you may have another 5 minutes. So should any member of the public who's watching who didn't pre-register wish to make comment during the meeting, they can email or call clerk services where the deputy clerk will be monitoring for input and will provide your comments to council and town staff during the meeting. Any comments received will become part of the public record. If you do not submit your comments during the meeting, you can still send them and they will be provided to the council and town staff, and you will also be added to the circulation list as an interested party. And that way you'll be kept updated on any further information regarding this item. The email and the phone number will be listed on the PowerPoint during the meeting and is also available on tonight's website. So first, we'll now hear from the town clerk, Mr. Parkin, on how the public notice of this meeting was provided.
Thank you, Your Worship. Notice for this public meeting was circulated 20 days prior to this public meeting to all required agencies, and a notice was placed in the newspaper on February 4th, 2021. Notice was also put on the town's website, and information on the plan of subdivision and proposed amendments to the town's zoning bylaw was also posted on the town's Get Involved Innisfil.ca website for review and commenting.
Thank you, Mr. Parkin. Has any correspondence been received by the clerk's department concerning the proposed amendments?
Yes, Your Worship, we have received 4 pieces of correspondence that were circulated to council today. The first from Mr. Clint McQueen expressing concerns regarding the application. Second item from Ms. Christine Puma expressing concerns regarding the application. The third item from the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority providing comments regarding the application. And the fourth from Parkbridge providing comments regarding existing infrastructure and provisions to mitigate potential impacts to related properties adjacent to the proposed development. And just to reiterate, Your Worship, members of the public may provide comment or register their interest regarding this application during the meeting or up until council makes a decision on the application by contacting the clerk's office.
Thank you, Mr. Parkin. I do recall receiving another piece of correspondence from a member. I think it was one of the speakers here tonight that wasn't on your list. I think it was Mr. Brewer. So I will circulate that to you in case you don't have it. It was in my email packet. It arrived to me on email, and I'll make sure that that you receive a copy of that as well. So thank you for that. We'll now hear from Stephen Montgomery. He's a senior planner who will provide a high-level summary of the planning context of the proposed amendments. And after his presentation, then we will hear from the proponent.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of council, staff, and the public, the purpose of this public meeting is to consider a proposed plan of subdivision and zoning bylaw amendment on lands known municipally as 893 and 911 Lockhart Road. Slide, please. The subject lands are 2.22 hectares in area with about 75 meters frontage on Lockhart Road. To the north is Lockhart Road, existing single attached dwellings, the Sandy Cove Mall and Sandy Cove Acres Land Lease Retirement Community. To the east is single attached dwellings. To the west is single attached dwellings and Sandy Cove Acres Retirement Community. And to the south is also Sandy Cove Acres Land Lease Retirement Community. Next slide. Purpose of the applications is that the applicant proposes to permit a 27-lot freehold single detached subdivision with a stormwater management pond on full municipal sewer and water services, and to rezone the lands from the current zoning, which is residential 1 zone and residential 1 exception hold or R13H zone, to residential 2 hold R2H, residential 2 exception hold R2XH, and open space OS zone. The lands were originally zoned for residential development in 1999, containing a hold symbol on the zoning until full municipal sewer and water services are available, and full municipal services are now available in the area. Next slide, please. This is the proposed draft plan of subdivision which will be explained in more detail by the applicant. It includes Street A, which is a public crescent-shaped road, a stormwater management block, which is shown in blue, and 27 lots ranging from about 15 meters or about 50-foot frontage down to about 12 meters or about 40-foot frontage, and one of the lots is less than 40-foot frontage. Next slide, please. Staff have done a high-level review of relevant planning policy framework, which is attachment 5 to the staff report, which includes a review of the town's community strategic plan, provincial policy statement, provincial growth plan, Lake Simcoe protection plan, County of Simcoe official plan, municipal official plan, and the town's comprehensive zoning bylaw 8013. I won't go into detail here, as the applicant will also provide some discussion about these matters in their presentation. However, the details are also in town staff report attachment 5 as stated. Next slide, please. Agency comments thus far received are Canada Post, InPower, Bell Canada, and Hydro One, stating no objections and or standard conditions. These are all attached to the report, the staff report. Also today, we received Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority, stating that they are currently reviewing the reports submitted as part of their peer review process, and they need more information from the applicant respecting stormwater management. Also, the subject lands are not subject to Conservation Authority permits. They speak in their letter to section 3.1 of the provincial policy statement respecting natural hazards are not applicable, and also that additional comments will be from them will be forthcoming. So we do not have their complete comments at this time. Next slide, please. Public comments received include concerns about changes to the water table and the effect on local wells and water runoff, including backyard drainage, the relatively small size of the lots, and concerns about devaluing of existing properties, increased noise and traffic generated, including increased noise impacts on seniors adjacent to the development, lack of parkland and play areas proposed. The density is much higher than what was originally conceptually proposed and zoned in 1999, which was showing about 12 to 15 lots. Aesthetic decline of bordering lots due to retaining walls required for regrading to put in the roads, and concerns of loss of wildlife, trees, and also loss of privacy, and therefore corresponding requests for tree buffers and fencing of adjacent lots. Parkbridge also provided comments today. Parkbridge is the owner of Sandy Cove Acres, requesting that the developer pay for their proportionate share of existing infrastructure improvements constructed in the area, and that adequate separation for screening for visual, shadow, and noise impacts be provided for adjacent Sandy Cove Acres residents. Next slide, please. As mentioned in the staff report, further consideration would be required for urban design and architectural control in future draft plan conditions, conditions respecting sewer and water allocation, fencing, landscaping, external works, tree preservation and tree compensation, updates to the reports, agency conditions, and hydrogeology, including well monitoring and evaluation of any impacts on local wells. The Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority is currently reviewing the environmental impact study that was required as part of the complete application, as well as the stormwater management component. And staff are also reviewing the drainage easements that are proposed and the effects on the development footprints of the lots, as well as parkland dedication, linkages, traffic, and other matters. Next slide. Staff can ask for 5% of the developable area of a subdivision to be provided as parkland under the Planning Act, which would be about 0.11 hectare parkette inside this subdivision, which is smaller than the normal parkette size recommended in the town's official plan of 0.2 to 0.5 hectares. There is an over 3 hectare neighborhood park proposed in Innes Village about 400 meters away, as shown in the green on this slide. And so staff are looking at available parkland in the area and what to do about parkland for the subdivision in that context. Next slide. Now, in terms of next steps, staff will review and consider all comments received and report back to council at a future council meeting, recommending whether the proposed subdivision and zoning should be approved. Notice would be provided respecting when the report is returning to council for consideration to all those who requested notification and or submitted written correspondence for this public meeting, and that includes written correspondence on the Get Involved municipal.ca website, as well as all emails and letters received. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Montgomery. We'll now hear from Kaylee Robbins of the Jones Consulting Group on behalf of the applicant. Whenever you're ready, Ms. Robbins.
Thank you. I'll just wait for my presentation. Perfect. There it is. So good evening, council, staff, and members of the public. Can you hear me fine? The volume is okay? Perfect. Okay. So my name is Kaylee Robbins. I'm a planner with the Jones Consulting Group, and I'm here on behalf of MS Lockhart Holdings, Inc., the owner of the subject lands, to present applications for zoning bylaw amendment and plan of subdivision for the lands municipally known as 893 and 911 Lockhart Road. The purpose of the applications is to facilitate a subdivision containing 27 single detached dwelling lots, a stormwater management block, and a proposed public road. So here with me tonight is the owner, Sam Fayez of MS Lockhart Holdings, Inc., Hossein F. Qatari, the project architect, Ray Duhamel, a planner at the Jones Consulting Group, as well as Mike Fliss, the project engineer, also from the Jones Consulting Group. Next slide, please. Thank you. The subject lands are located along Lockhart Road in the Sandy Cove settlement area. The lands have a total area of approximately 2.2 hectares and 75 meters of frontage along Lockhart Road. The lands are vegetated, and there is an existing dwelling at 893 Lockhart Road, which is proposed to be demolished. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the image here shows the surrounding land uses, which Stephen went over briefly, and I'll just elaborate on. To the north of the subject lands, there's Lockhart Road, as well as the Sandy Cove Mall, which has various commercial uses. And further north is part of the Sandy Cove retirement community. To the east of the subject lands, there are single detached dwellings at 25th Side Road, and then further east is the Innis Village subdivision, which is approved, currently being constructed with an anticipated completion date of 2026. And there's also a park proposed for that area, which I've labeled open space on this slide. To the south of the subject lands, there is Sandy Cove Acres Retirement Community, and then to the west, there's, I believe, just one single detached dwelling, and then the balance of the Sandy Cove Acres Retirement Community. Next slide, please. Thank you. Thank you. So the plan of subdivision application proposes 27 single detached dwellings, a stormwater management block, an enhanced right-of-way area, and a 20-meter wide local road. The 27 single detached dwelling lots have frontage ranging from 11.5 meters to about 15 meters, and areas ranging from 360 square meters to approximately 970 square meters. At this time, it is anticipated the built form of the proposed dwellings will be a mix of single-story bungalows and two-story dwellings. The enhanced right-of-way area will allow for a larger boulevard that may include low-impact development features or additional landscaping and buffering, which will be determined during the detailed design stage. The proposed road will be a local road with a 20-meter right-of-way. And the east entrance is proposed to align with the private road that is located north of the subject lands on the opposite side of Lockhart Road. The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment application is to rezone the lands to residential 2 hold to permit the proposed dwelling lots. and residential 2 exception hold to permit one lot that has a frontage of less than 12 meters. And then also to rezone the stormwater management facility to open space. So the hold provision is proposed to ensure that water and sewer capacity is confirmed prior to the issuance of a building permit. Next slide, please. Thank you. So in support of the proposed development, many technical reports and plans were submitted as listed on this slide. The reports can all be accessed on the Innisfil Get Involved website. I'm just going to go over just a couple of these studies. So the EIS, the Environmental Impact Study, found that the subject lands are not expected to contain significant features as per the provincial and municipal criteria. However, the lands do contain natural features such as a butternut tree that may require ecological offsetting, and the owner is aware of this. So essentially planting trees in an off-site location. A traffic study was prepared by JD Engineering, which concludes there is sufficient capacity within the existing transportation network to accommodate the additional 24 peak AM trips and 29 peak PM trips, and no additional improvements are required. Next slide, please. Thank you. So all development shall be consistent with the provincial policy statement and conform to the growth plan and Lake Simcoe protection plan. So the proposed development demonstrates infill development within an existing settlement area, and it will be connected to municipal water and sewer services, which is the preferred method of servicing in settlement areas. The proposed development will improve the housing supply within Sandy Cove and the town, and it meets the minimum density target of 40 people and jobs per hectare for designated greenfield areas. The proposed development efficiently connects to the existing transportation network without the need for improvements, as I mentioned with the previous slide. And no negative impacts to significant natural features are expected. And lastly, a servicing and stormwater management report has been prepared in support of the applications as required by the Lake Simcoe protection plan. Next slide, please. So the town of Innisfil is a lower tier municipality within the county of Simcoe. So development in the town is subject to the policies of the county of Simcoe official plan. The subject lands are designated settlements, and growth and development is directed to lands within settlements, and the full range of housing types is permitted within this designation. The proposed development meets the density target of the county of Simcoe official plan and will utilize existing municipal infrastructure. Only residential uses are proposed within the subdivision, but the subject lands are located within 200 meters of a future commercial core along 25th Side Road. The proposed development avoids reverse lotting, which is when a rear yard abuts a road. The development promotes active transportation by offering a short block length and being in close proximity to an existing commercial plaza. And as mentioned, no negative impacts to significant natural features are expected as a result of the proposed development. Next slide, please. Thank you. So within the municipal strategy in the town of Innisfil official plan, the lands are identified as being within the Sandy Cove urban settlement area, and the lands are further designated as residential low density 1. The proposed development demonstrates development on full municipal services and is within 200 meters of the designated downtown commercial area along 25th Side Road, which is just that area on the second figure on the right of the screen with the red stripes. So that's the downtown commercial core area, future commercial core area, I should say. So we are not proposing an amendment to the official plan. So the lands will maintain the low density residential 1 designation, which is the predominant designation in Sandy Cove. This designation permits single detached dwellings and a minimum density of 10 units per hectare and a maximum density of 13 units per hectare. So this density range would permit a minimum of 21 lots and a maximum of 27 lots which we've proposed the maximum density. We believe the 27 lots is compatible with the surrounding area when taking into consideration the adjacent single detached lots, the higher density residential retirement community to the south, partly to the west, and then further north, as well as the approved Innis Village subdivision. The proposed subdivision also optimizes the use of municipal infrastructure by achieving the maximum permitted density. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the zoning bylaw amendment proposes to rezone the lands from residential 1 and residential 1 exception 3 to residential 2 hold to permit the proposed detached dwelling lots that have a minimum frontage of 12 meters and a minimum lot area of 360 square meters. We also propose to rezone lot 26 to residential 2 exception hold to permit a lot frontage of 11.5 meters, whereas the requirement is 12 meters. And then we also propose to rezone a portion of the land's open space to permit the stormwater management facilities. The hold provision is in place until water and sewer capacity is allocated by council and a subdivision agreement is entered into with the town. And next slide, please. Thanks. So these are the zoning provisions for the R2 zone. All the proposed lots meet the provisions with the exception of lot 26, which has a lot frontage of 11.5 meters, whereas, as mentioned, the requirement is 12 meters. So this also provides everyone with an idea as to the requirements for the built form. For example, the rear yards have to be a minimum of 7.5 meters, and the minimum front yard has to be a minimum of 4.5 meters. Next slide, please. So if approved, the applications will facilitate a 27 single detached dwelling subdivision, which is located within a settlement area and will utilize municipal water and sewer services. The proposed development meets the density targets of the County of Simcoe official plan and the Town of Innisfil official plan. The subdivision will also positively contribute to the supply of housing in Sandy Cove and in the town. And the zoning bylaw amendment will allow for a more compact form of development on the lands than the current zoning permits. And in our opinion, the proposed zoning bylaw amendment and plan of subdivision applications are consistent with the provincial policy statement, conform to the growth plan, Lake Simcoe Protection Plan, County of Simcoe Official Plan, and Town of Innisfil Official Plan. So thank you. That concludes my presentation, and we are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Robbins, very much
Thanks.
for the presentation. Now I'll go to council and ask council if there are any questions. Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Your Worship. I do have questions, and I have given questions to the town staff, speaking with Mr. Montgomery, and hopefully I can get all the answers. I have gone over and spoken to the residents in that area. They're not really happy with the idea, but they're okay with a subdivision, perhaps with less homes and not so large. That really isn't a big, it looks like it's a big area, but it's not. When you put those big homes in there, it's going to take up a lot of space. So number one, there's no area for a green space. So I'm sure that there's going to be more than just couples living in these homes. So you say there's 27 homes. So you divide that or multiply that by, say, a family of 4. So that's a lot more than what you anticipated. It's the properties that are of concern because they are small, and I would like to recommend that you take from your drawing, you take houses from 1 to 6 and eliminate them. And you could put a little parquet there and have a tree buffer. So at least there's one area in their own location that the children can play without having to walk all the way down to the 25th, cross over, and then walk into Friday Harbor. Not Friday Harbor, sorry, the Park Bridges area homes that are going to be in there. And I realize there's a park, but it's not really that close for the children to walk on their own. So to me, that's a danger right there. So if there is the area that you could put a little park at, so they could play, that's great. So now you're also talking about 27 homes, and you can be sure that there's going to be 2 vehicles. So there's 54 vehicles in that one little space, and they're going to be going back and forth, in and out. The noise, for one, is concerning the residents close by, and it's just not good for the environment. We have 2 large properties that you mentioned. One was the Park Bridge property on the 25th, and there's another one just across the road and up one at the Johnson's Farm that is set for development for the big homes. So that there's going to be a lot of traffic on Lockhart Road, and I know there's going to be stop signs and everything, but it's just right now during the summer is very busy. Another thing that I wanted to mention. And I was glad to hear that Simcoe County has put their 2 cents in as well. I've got my notes here. I'm not a good note taker like Councillor Sadie. She's got her all up okay.
I could come back to you, Councillor, if you want me to go around the table, and I could come back to you.
Yeah, I know. Well, like I say, I gave my questions to Mr. Montgomery, so at least I've got my voice heard. But my real concern is there's too many homes, and bring them down to a smaller size. Like why are these homes being built so huge? This isn't the location for that type of home. If we can go down to a bungalow size, that would be great. It would take the homes, but the way the houses are being built, it's just not for the location. At least that's my point, and also all the neighbors in the area that I went over and I've spoken to, and they just don't feel that is the right type of developer, the area for a big development like that. For 27 homes, if we could cut it off by even 6, it would make a big difference on the traffic in there. So that's just my comments. And if I can think of something else, I'll put my hand up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Okay, with the intensification, the change that we're making in the zoning for the intensification purposes, it's been brought to my attention that's a huge concern for the neighbors in that area. I guess it's townhouses they're looking to put in on those narrower lots. One of the concerns that's been brought to my attention is the stormwater management pond being built next to existing homes. And since we're changing or making an amendment for a narrower lot, is it possible to have that stormwater management pond moved to another location that doesn't impact the existing neighbors? I think my view is that if there's a stormwater management pond where there's mosquito issues and we have issues with mosquitoes for safety, that should be moved to the back of the lot if possible. And I'm questioning why the stormwater management pond is so large that I have a concern with. We know that they do cost the municipality a lot of hassles further down the road if they're not managed properly. My other concern is the school in the area is Goodfellow down the road. And from what I understand, it's at maximum capacity. And we've dealt with this at the corner of Mapleview and 25th as well for capacity for schooling, busing. And like Councillor Payne said, we have a development going to the northwest there with a lot of family homes going into it. I'm really wondering if it's necessary to make an amendment to go from, I think, 14 homes originally to 27. To me, it just doesn't fit the neighborhood. Noise levels for people who have bought in Sandy Cove tend to really like their quietness in that area. I think with families that could impact the neighborhood a lot. But again, I'm going to focus on the stormwater management pond being moved and no amendment to allow a smaller lot than normal, as we have huge developments going in that area. And as for the greenland, the 5% green space that would be allotted, that area that you're presenting to the east, on that particular land is a tree preservation on that particular piece of green space. That's not really an open parkland for kids. And also on the corner of 25th and Lockhart, there is a potential for a commercial building on that corner. I think it was brought up about 9 years ago, to be a garage or a gas station. And the neighbors were quite upset at that time. And also that green space backs onto a retirement village that Park Ridge is also building, and they may not want extra people coming into their neighborhood as well. So I think we need to look at this a little bit more carefully with what's coming to the northwest and the surrounding area, impact on the schools, and is it necessary to put a stormwater management pond next to existing residents and impacting their property values or even their availability to sit outside in the summer. So those are my concerns I'd like staff to look at. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So we're not making any amendments tonight. We're not voting. This is simply a fact gathering and consultation process. And just for clarity, the current proposal is single detached. There's no townhouses. Councillor Orsatti and then Councillor Fowler.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll just cover a couple of additional questions. I do agree with the Deputy Mayor in regards to the questions on the location of the stormwater pond in Block 29. I know that historically on Lockhart Road there, where the house is to be demolished, there's always been flooding and problems in the ditch there. So I don't know if that is part of the consideration of the location of that pond. And looking at the diagrams that were presented in the proposal, Block 27 and Block 26 but Block 27 is located behind current residential homes, and there's an easement, which I presume is for drainage. I wonder if since Block 26 has the smallest frontage recommended for that lot, if actually Block 27 was removed, it would allow a larger drainage for easement and the occurring high water table and the problems that the residents that are on the residential area backing onto that, it would solve that problem. I counted the homes that are running from 7 to up to 23, and they are the same density as the homes that are currently in Sandy Cove. Although the homes in Sandy Cove are a lot smaller, so they're placed in the same amount. I know intensification is always difficult, and it's always hard when you've backed onto, a bush area and appreciated that. But I do agree with residents that have made remarks and those that have submitted some comments, and also from the letter from Park Ridge, that there really should be a consideration of a tree buffer on the back part between the Block 7 to 25, that going on to especially the neighboring senior development. I think that's as a courteous way and way to have a transition from a current development to the other. And I just wonder on the size of the existing homes, the residential that are on Lockhart Road, the size of those lots seem a lot bigger. The size of the homes, would they be approximately about the size that are considered for this development? Just as a comparison, there's 5 existing new homes that were previously built here with access for that roadway. I remember when they went in, And the planning then was to allow the street to go behind and the homes. It is a lot, but I don't know how that fits in with town's intensification. I think we need to be considerate of residents in the area to the best of our ability. So just my comments are the tree buffer, removing the possibility, feasibility of removing block 27, making that a larger easement drainage area. And again, questioning the same as Deputy Mayor, block 29 for location of the stormwater management. Thank you. And I wanted to thank the residents that have submitted their comments, because we always appreciate it and it is difficult and we are aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Fowler?
Thank you, Your Worship. What I'm seeing here, Mr. Robbins, is in your report, you're stating that under the County Simcoe official plan, you're allowed 41 people per hectare. Now, considering the fact that you want to put in 27 homes, you're looking at a family of 3 in every home. Now, that's may not always be the case. There may be people who sublet, people who increase their vehicles or whatever to satisfy the need for income to even purchase a house in this day and age. The other thing that really stands out to me, and this is just my perspective on it, is there's mention of the green space being removed that the seniors use, and that others, like if they have grandchildren come by, that play in the area. Well, they're saying in a matter of fact that it's only 400 meters to an existing park. Well, a part that will be put into play. Now, to be clear, not a single foundation has been laid in this village. I've biked through it all summer, so I'm aware of it. So what you're asking to do, in essence, so I'm clear, is for youth and seniors to walk along Lockhart Road where it does not have a sidewalk and there's potential for accidents, to cross through a busy intersection, a heavily trafficked intersection without lights or proper crosswalks, to go back onto Lockhart Road where again there are no sidewalks, to a park that doesn't exist. That, and then to top that all off, you have a section of 25th that is now going to be designated commercial, which is going to increase traffic. So in this scenario, I think 27 is just too much. Like 15 to 21, I can understand. It'll allow you to increase the green space, park space. It's more of a safety issue with me in that regard. And on top of that, the other issue I have is I understand, even though you're connecting to municipal water and sewer, what is the effect that is going to happen with everyone in the general vicinity who is on well water, the recharge area? You're removing that large section of land, which directly affects them, even though their properties may not abut where the houses are being built. It's too much for the space. Again, I agree with the other councillors that, progress will happen, houses will be built, but to do this it's too big, too much, too crowded, too much alteration in my mind. It doesn't sit right with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fowler. Councillor Nicol?
Your Worship, obviously we're just receiving this tonight, but just curious to staff, I guess, is this considered a complete application? Because in reading the Lake Simcoe Regional Conservation Authority summary, they state they haven't received all the information they're looking for. They consider this a major development. The Lake Simcoe Protection Plan policies 4.8, 6.4 apply, and they're looking for Lake Simcoe phosphorus offsetting as well. So they haven't received that as of this afternoon that I read anyways. So I do concur with Deputy Mayor and others that the location of the stormwater retention pond is of concern, because that's not just a pond, it's also going to be a roadway as well. So to an existing residence, that's a great impact. I always have a problem with stormwater retention ponds considered open space, because I don't think that is an open space. And then just cognizant of the fill requirements, the retaining walls that were discussed. Just curious about the height of the is, what the impact is going to be on drainage to the existing residents. We've dealt with that in Guildford Road, Neely Road, and over in Cole area, Cookstown. So just concerned that where we're pushing that fluid to, and to make sure that that's taken care of. So just my comments. I know we're just receiving it tonight, but just concerns with a few of those points. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments before we hear from the public? Councillor Waters and then Councillor Van Berkel.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to continue along the storm with questions around the stormwater management pond. I do have a question in terms of, and I think was raised, is where is that stormwater management pond draining to? So I'd like to ask that question first of all, and then continue on with some other remarks.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. Do we have Mr. Montgomery? Did you want to respond to that?
Through your worship, yes. And we also have Dylan Moore from engineering who's on, who may be able to speak to that briefly as well, as the engineering department's peer reviewing the stormwater.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Yeah, we're not hearing you. You're on mute. And we're still not hearing you. We'll come back to you in just a minute and we'll let you answer that question. But if you want to go ahead then, Councillor Waters, while Mr. Moore works out his technical difficulties.
Okay, so my question would be that if it's going to be flowing into the easement, there's a drainage easement between 26 and 27, that would it be advisable to eliminate lot 25, 26, 27, put the stormwater management pond there? Then it would be on an existing drainage swale area. And then I think it would impact probably fewer homes, which was a concern of the deputy mayor as well. So just a thought about that in terms of depending on where that stormwater management pond goes. And also wondering whether not attached to that stormwater management, they could put a bit of green space in there for the neighborhood kids so they don't basically have to walk and cross the 20th side road to get to that new community park, which isn't quite built yet. A second question I have is, or a comment and question is, from the description of the subdivision, they don't have their water and wastewater allotment yet. Comment two is that they're getting to be able to put more houses in on this property than probably their original thought that they would. So I'm looking that they're going to be getting increased profits from this, but I see no community benefits to this, so in terms of no green space and usually with the allotment of water and wastewater, we can ask for some community benefits. So I'm just wondering whether or not we could ask for some for improvement in these houses in terms of your typical subdivision house. Can we not ask for maybe a 25% increase in their energy efficiency and also maybe 25% reduction in water consumption of those houses to make them at least a little more sustainable because in return for density. So that's my comments in terms of trying to make it a little more sustainable, a little more environmentally friendly in terms of some green space in that area, and then also maybe a better location for the stormwater management pond when that question can be answered. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moore, are we able to hear you yet?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Hi, great. Sorry about that. I was just having technical difficulties. Yeah, sorry, through your worship to Councillor Waters, to answer your question about the pond, the drainage would be headed east on Lockhart Road and would be picked up by the existing drainage infrastructure and discharged out to Lake Simcoe.
Okay, so what is the it looks like the swale. I think it looks like a swale between 26 and 27. Is that what that is?
Yeah, that's a it's the pipe there. It's a drainage easement between 26 and 27. So the purpose of the easement at the rear of the lots and then behind the lots of 24, 25, 26, 27 is for the external drainage from the community to the south. So that swale picks up the external drainage and conveys it along that swale. And the engineers will have to design for that water to get to the street A. So it'll be discharged to street A.
Okay, so it won't, it's not connected to the stormwater management system then?
It's not, currently it's not proposed to be discharging to the pond. It's going to go to Street A and then discharge to Lockhart Road uncontrolled.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I get a comment from the planners around the idea of the wastewater and water allocation in terms of whether or not we can ask for any community benefits that would improve the sustainability of subdivision?
For your worship, I may have to defer a little bit to Mary Nordstrom, Manager of Planning, on the issue of community benefits. Community benefits typically, in my understanding, are done when the density is increasing. Like, let's say the applicant applies to redesignate the lands to a higher density. For example, if they're putting in townhouses, I'm just using that as an example. This is within the range of density of the official plan between 10 and 13. I don't know if Mary has anything to add to that in terms of community benefits. We can certainly have a look at it though.
But I just out of curiosity, if they don't have their wastewater and water allocation, they would have to get that from us. And in that case, I think we can ask for community benefits, can we not?
Ms. Nordstrom?
And through your worship to Councillor Waters, I think the terminology of community benefits is perhaps causing some confusion in that, yeah, community benefits, as Mr. Montgomery was saying, is linked to when you're pursuing an increase in density and height, whereas this density is within the official plan, low density development. But certainly we will look into further whether there's opportunities to work with the applicant in achieving, more sustainability, better sustainability measures through the discussions through the wastewater allocation, or just with respect to the application itself, are certainly conversations that we can continue to have with the applicant based on the comments that we've heard tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. Just one quick thing, and I'll go to Councillor Van Berkel. So there's no anticipated allocation for this. Would it come with the second phase of the water pollution control plant? And would that be in line with when Parkbridge or when Innes Village would also get capacity?
Your worship, yes. And Dylan, if you're able to respond to that question, that would be great.
Yeah, no problem. Through your worship to members of council, this development would have to follow the allocation policy, which would include the requirement of joining the Innisfil Developers Allocation Group for the front end financing of the plant. And as I think it was already previously stated, council would have a chance to grant allocation for this development during the detailed design.
Thank you. I think we lost you again there at the end, but we got the gist of it. So there isn't currently capacity in our water pollution control plant that it would be in part of the next phase.
Sorry, let me just correct myself there. There is capacity, just to be eligible for that capacity, the developer would have to join the Innisfil Developers Allocation Group and get council resolution for allocation. So they wouldn't be, let's say they don't have allocation currently, but they would need council resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Councillor Van Berkel.
Thank you, Your Worship. A lot of my questions have been answered here. I had a big problem with the storm pond and that, but one of the other concerns that I have is this is not a Parkbridge. This is going to be a subdivision that's going to be consumed by the town, and eventually the town is going to, have to do everything in there. And one of my concerns is I've been getting phone calls, and I've even sent some of them to emails sent to customer service with snow removal. These small lots and have subdivisions that have just been built here on the 20th Side Road and the Ford Concession that are small lots, and people don't know where to go with their snow. I mean, they're calling, their driveways are so close together, there's no front lawns, and they're asking us to remove snow. Of course, we can't do that because if we do it for one person, we'd have to do it for the whole town. But I think that needs to be taken into consideration too, with all these small lots that eventually, we're going to, if we get snowfalls like we did today, yesterday and the day before, and we get another one, all of these people are in trouble. They don't know where to go with the snow anymore. So I think that needs to be taken into consideration, as well as all these other things that are concerns by the different councillors, because it is a subdivision that's going to be consumed by the town of Innisfil eventually.
Thank you, councillors. Seeing no more hands, I will go to members of the public now. So we'll hear from those members of the public who have questions regarding the proposed amendment before council votes on just receiving the report. The only vote we're going to have tonight is to receive the report. There'll be no decisions made. The speaking order is now on the screen. When it's your turn, we're asking you to limit your comments to 5 minutes in the first round, so that everybody has the opportunity for your questions or concerns, and town staff will be capturing your comments as we progress. Once your 5 minutes is up, please turn your video and audio off, and I will call the next speaker. Once all speakers on the list have spoken, I will ask for additional speakers, and at that time, please turn on your video and raise your hand. I will call a speaker's name and ask them to turn on their audio when it is their turn for an additional 5 minutes. This has been made much more complicated by COVID-19, when normally we would just be able to have people appear before us in council chambers. But I want to thank the clerk's office for coming up with this plan in order to still allow residents to be consulted and have their voice heard during these difficult times. During the meeting, once you've provided comment, you may remain in the meeting, but please turn off your video and audio. You may also, if you'd like, leave the meeting at that time, and you can watch it on live stream if you prefer. It's totally up to you. So I will now ask the first person on the list, Lyndon Brewer, to please turn on your video and audio and state your name for the record. Welcome to the Brewers.
Hopefully you can see me.
We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Okay.
There's a little video beside. There you are. Welcome.
It's kind of scary that close, but we're okay. Yeah. We're good. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Lyndon Brewer. My wife Lynn, who sits here with me, she's with me here tonight. We have been residents of Innisfil for 30 years. We resided at 2214 Wards Lane for 14 years. We've been in our present home at 897 Lockhart, directly beside the pond, for 19 years. We moved in here in 2002. I was heavily involved in the excavation work of my home when it was built. So I knew at the time this proposed idea for this particular piece of land. Mr. Aneka, who was the builder and also a friend, was with me on site most days, and I have privy information that was going on behind me at the time. Water and sewer were the issue. I believe this to be true. It was slated for approximately 17 homes, and that's give or take a couple of homes, but it was approximately that, and that time to be constructed, which is still the proposal at present day, I believe is still on the table before this one. The homes were in keeping with what was out front, which is my home and my neighbor's home. This proposed here, in this application, 21 of the 27 lots, as told earlier, is 40 feet. One is at 60 and the other ones fall in between. This does not compare to the 80 by 200 lots that are sitting out front that I reside on and where my neighbors reside. Our homes are approximately 1,700 to 2,200 square feet. I'm sure the houses that will be put on the 40-foot lots do not compare to existing real estate, and this brings property values down. The retention pond being the second concern I have. Building this retention pond, I've been in this business for close to 40 years now. These ponds, although necessary, have been located in a manner that does not affect existing subdivision. This one, however, will. It'll be directly beside my property. And it's 60 feet wide by 250 feet approximately that goes back there. That's a fairly large pond to be located where it is. And I heard one gentleman say that it would be free flowing. You can't free flow that size of pond in what's provided there now. And it's too big of a pond for that particular area. I've been witness to these ponds that were built in haste. I saw it affected people after the construction, and in some cases had the legitimate arguments. We have had the good fortune of having vacant land behind us for the past 19 years. We've seen wildlife exist back there and still exist to this day. A place for my kids to grow up and play like we all played in the fields. Don't get me wrong, I'm a realist. I understand we have to move forward, but to jam this many houses in this property is unrealistic. It is for these reasons I'm against this development. But this retention pond issue is a lot bigger issue than been given credit for. I appreciate the other councillors that have come on board and explained that. And that's my feeling on this development. Thank you very much, Your Worship and Council.
Thank you very much, Mr. and Mrs. Brewer. Appreciate you being here. Next is Christine Puma. Good evening. Thank you for being here.
Good. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you just great.
Great. Okay. Your Worship, Council, thank you again for the opportunity to speak tonight, and thank you to everyone who's here. My name is Christine Puma. This is my husband, Len, and we live at 883 Lockhart in front and beside the proposed development at 893 and 911. Our lot, like Brew mentioned, our lot is 100 by 200 feet. We sent our comments in earlier. I'm not sure if you've all had the chance to read it or take a quick look at our pictures. We definitely have some concerns with the development, most of which have already been mentioned here tonight, which is great. 20 years ago, when we first purchased our home here, we were actually told that the land running directly behind and all the way over to Sandy Cove, even before Mr. Brewer's home was built, was all empty. And we were told it was a green space buffer area and would never be developed, which was one of the main reasons that we purchased this home. Obviously, somewhere along the way where we were misinformed or things changed, and we were never made aware of it until recently when we learned about this potential subdivision coming in. So we would respectfully ask that council reconsider the size and scale of this draft plan. And we and our neighbors believe that this is far too high a density development for this area. We know, as Bruce said, we know it's a growth area here, but our understanding again is initially that area was slated originally for a much smaller, lower density development with 12 or 14 homes or so on much larger lots because they were supposed to have septic and well. Now with municipal services, it's now 27. So you'll see in our comments that we believe that our property value will go down with the loss of privacy and the green space in behind. And of course, with the creation of a road right beside our property. We feel there will be much more traffic generated than estimated in the proposed study done by JD Engineering. And of course, with more traffic comes more noise, and that's right outside of our bedroom window. We have some serious concerns as well with the stormwater runoff and the groundwater. If you look at the photos we submitted, you'll see we are the lowest point in this proposed site. The water runoff flows in a northeasterly direction, basically cooling in our backyard every spring. You'll see the ducks back there, and it's a pretty good flooded area. So once that soft cover of trees and grass is converted to the hard cover of driveways, dwellings, and roads, even with that stormwater pond, we're still going to see more water heading towards our house. We're worried about the lowering of the groundwater table as well. During the recent road construction out front, our well went dry, and our well's in the back, and we had pressure issues as well. So dewatering during the proposed construction and the general aftermath of that, we fear we're going to lose our well water. And you know, we don't want to hook up to municipal services. We're very happy with our well water, but we feel like we're not going to be given a choice but to hook up so we don't lose it, and we don't feel that's fair to us. We kind of feel that the developer should cover the cost of our hookup if that's what we're going to have to do, because we're not being given a choice. So we understand that this subdivision is probably going to move forward at some point, but we would ask council to consider the removal of lot 27, as has been mentioned. They could shift that drainage easement slightly north, would alleviate having to ask for an exception for the size of lot 26. And ideally, council would also consider a smaller development overall of maybe 19 units, removing lots 27 and 1 through 7, and put in a small park, as Councillor Payne and others have suggested. That solution still gives the developer 19 lots and gives the current residents a decent buffer area between the private backyards that were the reason we purchased these homes and that new growth area. So barring that, we would also recommend that the developer build a wooden privacy fence across our back property line and plant mature evergreen trees along the back of our property to retain that privacy. And we'd also like to ask for a fence and mature trees along the enhanced right-of-way between the proposed roadway and our property line. Thank you again for your time and consideration. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you so much for being here, much appreciated. I think the next name, if I remember correctly, because the screen has gone down, I think it was Reginald Ross. Yes, it is. Reginald, if you're with us, could you please turn on your video and audio? Welcome. Thank you for being here this evening.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. My name is Reginald Ross, and my wife Nancy's here beside me. We live at 909 Lockhart, so we're in one of those houses along Lockhart that is sort of in conflict with this. We wish to object to the proposed plan of subdivision and zoning bylaw amendment for the following reasons. The swamp areas in the proposed area would be filled in and the water redirected. How would this affect the current water table in the replenishment of the aquifers and the quality and quantity of water in our wells? This did not appear to be directly addressed in the study. Is there proper consideration of the water runoff from the high density housing? Is the engineering accurate, or are we going to have flooding problems? The current area has large lots. The proposed subdivision shows extremely small lots. This type of subdivision should not be in this area. The small lots means the houses will have to be 2-story due to the size of the lots in an area of bungalows. This type of proposed subdivision will definitely devalue the values of current homes. The current surrounding area consists of houses primarily occupied by seniors. The proposed subdivision will likely attract young families with children. This quality of life noise factor will definitely conflict from the existing quality of life. If young families move in, the children have no playgrounds in the immediate area. The small lots do not provide a proper play area. This type of housing should be restricted to larger projects such as Innes Village that will have playgrounds. When we moved here about 3 years ago, we were made aware that development behind our house would consist of 12 to 15 houses, not 27. The larger lots would fit in better with the surrounding homes. The proposed new access roads will change the aesthetic value of the bordering lots due to the effect of leveling the road, i.e. retaining walls, which we don't currently have. The privacy of the existing homes will be severely degraded. Is the developer providing fencing? The new proposed subdivision will change the existence of wildlife. Where will the birds, rabbits, and foxes go? The new proposed subdivision does not protect existing trees. What will happen to the protected butternut tree? In conclusion, the change in zoning to allow extremely small building lots will have a very detrimental impact on the existing homes surrounding the proposed subdivision and the market value of the existing houses. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much for providing your comments to us this evening. Next is Leanne Hall. Is Leanne Hall with us? I am not seeing her, so we'll go to the next one, and if we can always come back. So Geraldine Curtis is next. I think all of council was too long-winded and we lost some of our people. Next is Mike Abraham.
Yeah, it's Mike Abraham here.
Great. Hi, welcome.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I think my neighbor has really raised the concerns that I have with the number of homes that are proposed. If we go back to the original plan of 15 homes, I think that would sit well with, you know, most of us. Having a park from lot 1 to lot 7, a park that services the area, I think that's a great idea. Relocating the storm waters and the pond that you know, they proposed beside Brew's home, I think that that's something that should be considered. You know, put it in a better, more central location within the proposed project, rather than just sticking it beside his home. If we can go back to the original plan of 15 homes, that would, you know, limit the environmental impact on the you know, on the area. It's not really designed for that. You know, it was never designed for that. When we bought our homes, we bought it to enjoy privacy, you know, larger lots, more space, less traffic, and all that would go away if they put 27 homes. So yes, I do share all the concerns that everyone raised, and you know, whatever they can do to stick to the original plan would be much appreciated. Thank you for listening to me, and have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Abraham. Next is Julia Bossis. Okay, so I'm going to then just ask if anybody who is on the call who hasn't had the opportunity to speak or has something else they would like to add, to please turn on their video. Mr. Brewer, go ahead, please.
Did you hear me there?
Yep.
Okay, good. See, Bill, I can do this. I can do this. I'm technologically advanced.
I knew you could.
They was voting for me. I know they were. I just wanted to reiterate this: the size of this pond, this property beside me, for the last 15 years has flooded, and we could have put a boat across that lot, and they did clear out the culvert going across the road, which now goes down to the 25th. However, the size of this retention pond, and of course the location, does not work at all. And the amount of water that's going to be created there, we're sitting on a lake. So the amount of water that's going to go into that pond and cause the problem that it's going to cause is unbelievable. And as far as the back piece, the original plan of subdivision, like I said, was 15 to 17 homes. I won't swear to either number, but I know I'm close. And the roadway was to go behind these properties that we're speaking of, myself and my neighbors along, which back onto, I believe, your lots 1 to 7. And the houses were to be in keeping with the houses that are here, because John and Necka was the original owner of that property. And the houses were to be kind of towards Earl, back onto Earl, and I believe back onto Sandy Cove, and then curl around. And in the piece behind 897 and the 4 houses that are here was just going to be the roadway, and that was going to be a privacy fence. That would leave room for a smaller retention pond to work. It would leave room for the park. This 27 homes does not work. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brewer. Is there anyone else who hasn't spoke yet or would like to add further comments before we go ahead, Ms. Puma?
Thank you. Yeah, we just wanted also to mention before they tear down the house next to us, 897, and sorry, 893, and start building that roadway, that there is an allowance there right now where there are some very mature cedar trees. And we would like for those to be protected. We'd like those to stay. They do provide a little bit of a privacy buffer for us right now. So we would ask that those also be allowed to stay.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else who hasn't spoken yet or would like to speak for a second time? Mr. Duhamel, it's not usual that the proponent speaks at this time, but we'll give you a moment.
I didn't know if now was the time or if it would be after anybody else had any comments. I just wanted to provide a few comments in response to those that were made, Your Worship.
Go ahead.
Okay. There's obviously some work that we have to do to take away from all the comments that were made by council and the public, which we appreciate. The most notable one being the storm pond. Certainly the developer doesn't want to build a bigger pond than is required to be built. And in this particular case, the requirements for what the storm pond size and design should be are really not something that are arbitrary. There's design standards that have to be met according to the Conservation Authority, the town's own standards, and the Ministry of the Environment guidelines. So there's a lot of criteria when you're designing storm ponds, and it's pretty technical business. And I know staff will be heavily involved in reviewing the proposal before you, as well as the LSRCA. But that storm pond location is the low point of the site. So to try, it's not a random blue block, if you can picture the subdivision, and just put the storm pond in any location that suits. The storm pond really does need to be at the low point of the site. So we hear the comments that are being made, and we're going to see what we can do about those. But I just want to share with you, it's not a matter of just being able to pick it up and plunk it any old spot on the site. There's a lot of challenges in trying to meet the requirements for stormwater and grading on a property. So thank you for that. And overall, in terms of density, we put forward a proposal that's consistent with what the density that you prescribe in your own official plan. That's in effect. So we are hearing the comments that you're making, but I think that 40 and 50-foot lots would still be considered large lots in the context of urban development moving forward in areas. So, but I'm hearing that it's not certainly anywhere near the size of the lots that were created originally on private services. So we have some work to do, taking away and seeing what we can work out as part of this. But there has been a lot of effort to get to this point, and obviously we have more work to do. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duhamel. I'm going to ask now the clerk's office. Have any emails been received by the clerk's office during this meeting? Deputy Clerk?
Thank you, Your Worship. There have been no emails received, and there have been no phone calls this evening with respect to this application.
Thank you. To everyone who has taken the time to watch this live streaming meeting and presentation regarding the proposed amendment, we will now go to the recommendation, and I would ask for a mover and a seconder, and then ask council if they have any further comments or questions. So the motion on the floor is simply to receive the input, and that comments presented at this meeting will be addressed by planning services in a comprehensive report. And all of you who have been here tonight and provided comments will be advised when this report comes back to this council for debate. So could I have a mover and a seconder to get this on the floor? So that's moved by Councillor Fowler and seconded by Councillor Van Berkel. Any further comments or questions? Councillor Fowler?
Thank you, Your Worship. Listening to everybody, and I think that there can be a better balance found that will satisfy more parties. It'll keep a lot more people happy and keep everything in better perspective overall. The way this comes across to me is just too much, as I stated before. We've heard multiple reasons, everything from technical to safety to property values. if we can tone it back a little bit, I think we can find a better balance and everyone will come away satisfied with what we can put forth. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments or questions? I had one item I hoped might be able to come back with the report. If the report talks about the requirements for the R2 zone, it would be really interesting to see that side by side with the requirements for the R1 zone, which currently it is. If that's at all possible to address in the report back. And I think all of my other questions were, oh, and then I did have one other comment as well. In the staff report, page 5 of 6, comments received, and it has the names, but then it also said that there were a few phone calls received from residents opposed to the development and stating the following concerns. So my comment would be, if any of those residents who simply phoned in want their comments to form part of the public record, it would be very helpful to have your comments in writing, either an email or a letter to Mr. Montgomery or the town staff. That way, to make sure that nobody's interpreting those comments for you. You're going to have them written the way you actually meant them, in case, instead of somebody paraphrasing what you said on a phone. I think that was all I had. Thank you, Ms. Nordstrom. Did you have a comment?
No, Your Worship, only just to add that we can certainly provide that comparison between the two zones when we return back.
That's great. Thank you. So we have this motion that's been duly moved and seconded. Do we have, all in favor? Those opposed? That is carried. So if you have not made oral or written submissions in regards to this proposal before a decision is reached, you should be aware that the local planning appeal tribunal may dismiss your appeal. Anyone who wishes to provide comment may still do so and may also register as an interested party to be contacted before this application is further considered by council. You can do that by contacting the clerk's office at innisfil.ca. So council thanks everyone for their participation this evening and their patience with our virtual process. So we'll now move on to their recommendation to receive the staff report. So we've already done that. So now we have a recommendation for the confirming bylaw, which confirms the meeting held today. And that's moved by Councillor Payne and seconded by Councillor Ices. All those in favor? And that is carried. And finally, adjournment. I just want to thank everyone before we adjourn. I want to thank everybody for being so respectful and respecting everyone's time and making your comments very thoughtful. It was very much appreciated. And that goes to council as well as to our residents that were here tonight. And so adjournment is moved by Councillor Nicol and seconded by Councillor Fowler. All those in favor? That is carried. And I hope everybody has a lovely what's rest of the evening, and we'll see you all at council meeting next week. Thank you.